One of the questions I get asked the most by beginner chicken keepers is whether they should use red light in their brooder or not. So these are people who are thinking of using, usually it's a heat lamp, and they're wondering if they should use a red bulb, or even if they are using a brooder plate like this one, they are wondering if they should artificially light that brooder with a red bulb. And the people who ask me this question are afraid that their chicks are going to cannibalize each other if they don't use these red lights, because that's what some others in forums and on Facebook groups have told them. So we're going to talk all about that in today's video. My name is Bree Wizard. I run the website thefeatherbrain.com, where I teach you all about what your chickens want and wish you knew. So the question today is, do your chicks want red lights? So first of all, I do just want to say that not only do I not recommend using red light, but I don't recommend you use a heat lamp at all. And so I have a whole other video explaining why and how heat lamps don't actually meet the needs of your chicks. And of course, they're very dangerous as well. So I will link to that if you want to take a look at that. My recommendation is the brooder plate. And then second, I don't recommend you ever use red light in your brooder unless you are raising your chicks in poor conditions. So when people tell you that you need to use these red lights or your chicks will cannibalize each other, these are people, typically farmers and kind of intensive farmers, maybe factory farm type, or maybe just intensive, but they are raising their chickens in basically appalling conditions where their brooder is really crowded. The chicks don't have enough space. They are not able to practice their natural behaviors, which require quite a bit of space. The chicks don't have anything to do in these brooders because there's just not even space to give them stuff to do. And they end up kind of taking this out on each other because, just like us, if we were all shoved together in a tiny room with nothing to do and not enough space to live correctly, a lot of us would get very irritable. We might take that out on others. We might get very nervous. And of course, the other problem with this is that when you don't have that space, if a chick is getting picked on by another chick, she's got nowhere to go. She can't get away from that. And so you can end up with some of this cannibalism, and you can end up with dead chicks. And the reason that these farmers then are using these red lights in their heat lamps is because when everything has that red glow on it, the chicks can't see blood. So if you have one chick that's plucking feathers out of another and eventually causes that chick to bleed, chicks will tend to be attracted to those bloody feathers, and that's where this cannibalization can really happen. The chicks all kind of gang up on that one and start pecking at that bloody surface and pulling skin off and all of that. And even if the chick doesn't die, the chick can be badly injured. In the best case scenario, she's gone through some horrible traumatic event. That's the best case. So having that red light shining means that everything looks red, and so the blood on the chick doesn't stick out, and she's at a much lower chance of being cannibalized. But if you just raise your chicks in good conditions, so that means in a spacious brooder, I prefer a camping tent like this one. And if you raise them with toys like multi-level perches and other objects, and you give them fresh bedding to forage in, you just don't have these aggression and feather picking problems. Or at least your chances of that will be really low. And even if you do get kind of a testy individual, your brooder should always have places for your chicks to get away from the cranky ones, and it should just never escalate to that point of injury. I have always raised my chicks in good conditions, and I've never had any kind of problems with feather picking or cannibalism. This is just not something that happens in the natural world. And if it does, like I said, the chicks have places to get away. And aside from that, let's just take a minute to recognize that living in red light 24/7 is really unnatural. I mean, just where in the natural world would chickens be exposed to red light, just constant red light like that. And then just imagine what it would be like for you if you were forced to live in red light all the time. It'd just be terrible. So let's not force that on our chicks either. Let's not make them live that way if we don't have to. If you need more help on how to raise your chicks, be sure to check out my course. I'll link to it below.